for getting under wraps. They're going to get both of you. Now you sign over yourself as a property to the courts. See? Read.
Verse 12. Therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous.
They say, you know what? We'll lie in wait for you. Read.
Because he is not for our turn.
He says we're going to do everything to try to conspire against them, because these people, these poor righteous people, are not for us. They loathe the American dream. They're not caught up in the deception, the satanic prosperity deception. He says we're going to lie in wait, and we're going to wait for something to happen to come against them. Why? Because they are not for us. Read.
And he is clean contrary to our doings.
And he says these people are clean contrary to our doings. They go into this Bible and look at the law and say you're not supposed to do these things that we glorify. You're not supposed to be a homosexual. You're not supposed to be a pedophile. You're not supposed to be a killer or murderer. You're not supposed to go into a country and kill children, men, women, and children under the auspices of democracy. You're not supposed to eat pork, shrimp, crab, lobster. So when we speak of these things, they're like, y'all contrary to us. The things we glorify, you people loathe. Why? Because you believe in the Bible. So we must teach your children that the Bible is just a book that was written by men, that it really have no validity whatsoever. See? Read.
He upbraideth us with our offending the law.
That's how you know it's speaking about us. They are mad that we upbraided them. We try to correct them of how they offend the laws of Moses. What are you doing worshiping on a Sunday? That's not the Sabbath. Why are you worshiping the sun god? Because that's what the Babylonians did on a Sunday. That's what the Romans did on a Sunday. And ironically, with no coincidence, these are the same people that gave you your churches, that have set up your churches. Sun worshipers. See? So they are upset with us because we went to the Bible and said, well, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. They put aside the laws of the God, of the Most High, and then they'll upbraid you, or they will reprimand or penalize you for breaking their law. So what are they doing? They're saying their laws are above God's laws. See? They even got your Christian church tell you, follow the laws of the land. But if you say, well, here's a law, pastor, that the Bible says you should follow. Oh, the law is done away with in the Bible. But follow the law of the land. So you fear the law of the land more than you do the Most High God. How can you put man's law over God's? See? Finish reading.
And objective to our infamy the transgressions of our education.
And we tell them that their education is foolish. It is foolish. How can you have an educational system that actually tax the people and make them greater slaves? I thought I was going to school to be free and have more in life. When yet, if I go to school, by the time I get finished paying my school debt, I'm 80 years old. When the guy that dropped out of 6th grade became an entrepreneur and a millionaire, and he don't owe the government anything. How stupid and foolish is this educational system when you have to be in debt to learn? It seems like it benefits the person that drops out. At least the person know that, man, listen, all this stuff I'm going to school for, I'm not even going to actually do in life. Wouldn't it be more advantageous, like it was in the past, for me to learn one thing and become good at it now? Instead of all this junk you throw in just to spread out my education for 4 or 5 years? Why don't I, if I want to be an electrician, why isn't all my classes that year for being an electrician? Why? Because they can't spread that out 4 years. So they'll give you all this junk and have you pay for it. And here it is, when you get out into the public sector, you're not even using none of these things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we tell them that their education is foolish. In ancient days, you became what your father was. If your father was an undertaker and buried people, You became an undertaker. You learned under your father. If your father and mother had a farm, you were a farmer. That's education you get just through living. And through that education, you learn to count. You learn to read. Because that's how you barter and do business. That's common sense. That's common sense. So we tell them how stupid their education is. As a matter of fact, people go into colleges to become more stupid. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. Because why? The first thing they do in college is try to brainwash you with all these different religions. And then it's freedom time. You've been held back all that time. So it's 4 years just to go into total unlawful sin and be indoctrinated into a Masonic society. Fraternities, marking themselves, branding yourselves, and thinking, and other people looking at you, oh yeah, he belonged to Alpha Phi Psi and all this, and you like, yeah, I'm in there. You like respected for being cattle. You're branding yourself like a cow. And you're respected. Everyone is saying, man, I want to get in there. I want to be branded too. Mm-hmm. So yes, we upbraid you according to your education too, because it's ridiculous. And now, we've told people for years, they're closing down all the schools now, mm-hmm, to show you that it wasn't about education anyway. It was government programming and simulating you into the system. Okay? That's what it was. But they don't need that. They're moving on to the next level of their plan now. Those same institutions that used to be schools will soon be detention. Yes. Detention centers. And on top of that, they're going to have these centers be preparation centers for the fusion centers they have. So you wonder why they're shutting down the schools? It have nothing to do with funding. They can print money out of thin air. Okay? If they wanted the schools there, you would have the schools. So don't lie about the funding. They have no need for that because there's no jobs for you to get in the future anyway. They've moved all your jobs out to the other countries. So what are they going to do with all this facade you call education? All these people who are aspiring to be something to make the country great when the country will soon be broken up. Okay, now they're moving money into the what? The army sector. The security sector. From all these people that will be a product of civil unrest. That's where they're moving the money at now, knowing that there is no jobs. There is no future. So now they must move it into what? Extermination, detention, and eventually slavery of the whole planet leading to the mark of the beast. That's where we're going. So yes, they're closing down the schools. The schools are nothing. They're moving it into the next sector now. But it tells you in the Wisdom of Solomon that we would actually upbraid them according to their education. We would tell them how ridiculous their educational system is. Why? How is it I'm so educated when you ask me a question concerning my family and where I come from, and I'm looking at you with a blank stare? How smart am I if I don't even know who I am? Anyone can learn how to work on an assembly line, or how to change a car belt, or to do this or do that, or pump gas. Anybody can learn that through repetition. That's not smart. But how many people out there learn the truth concerning themselves and the system they were born in? So education is not education at all. It's total foolishness. So they're mad because we say that. It tell you that in Wisdom of Solomon. They get upset because we tell them how foolish their education is. Read.
13.
Now, let's make this clear, because some people out there try to take what we say out of context and not really get the idea of what we're saying. Are we saying that if you are in school, you should drop out? Absolutely no. Because what you do with the knowledge the Most High gives you, you can use that education if you have the knowledge of the Most High. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. So we're not saying, some people out there, you young people, you might be in school, say, well, it's time for me to drop out. Ain't no good. We're not saying that. Because Luke was a Theophilus. You had Josephus, who was a great historian, who actually worked with the Romans because he had the education not only of their society, but his own. So what we're saying is, learn the truth concerning yourself, and then you learn their education so that you can now use it for your turn. Know the ins and outs of it so that you can use it for the betterment of your people. Let me make that clear, because I like to put that out there. But we tell you how foolish the education is. You got some people who can run a football or play with a basketball. You get free education, of course, because you're making the university billions of dollars. Like, listen, I'll tell you what. I'll pay for my own education. And why don't you pay me for me running up and down this court? Because that's where y'all making y'all real money at.
Mm-hmm.
But our people can't come together enough to even think about something like that. Read on.
Verse 13. He professeth to have the knowledge of the Most High.
This is why they're upset with us. And they tell you in the Wisdom of Solomon that these people profess that they got the knowledge of the Most High. They're not listening to our wine of Babylon that we brought over from the Roman Catholic Church. They don't believe our doctrine, the slave doctrine. They claim that they got the knowledge of the Most High. And then they'll look at you and say, well, what school did you go to? And you'll look at them and say, well, I didn't go to no school. That's the point. I haven't been programmed. So it's not how many plaques you got on the wall. Because Christ didn't have no plaques on his wall. Neither did Moses. Neither did none of the disciples or prophets. Okay? So think about that. The Bible says he's going to use the base people of this world to confound the wise. Because if we got the education from your system, then you would get the credit. The Most High is going to use the uneducated to tear down this system and show you how ridiculous it is. See? Why? Because people that learn through what they would call linear learning, they only learn to do one thing and only educated in one area, and they don't have no knowledge in any other area outside of what they're taught. That's limited education. See? But when someone have to feel their way and learn their way, they become diverse because the Spirit leads them. And that's something that you can't understand. The Spirit, they do what they have to do to survive. And that's an entirely different education you can only get through living. And when you look at it, the people in the Bible, I like to reference them all the time, like Joseph. He was thrown into a pit, left for dead, sold to the Egyptians. And his circumstance, the Most High was with him. He eventually began to rule all of Egypt. He didn't go to no school to become governor or leader of Egypt. You understand? But the Spirit was with him, and his circumstance, he operated in his circumstance and learned with his surroundings and was keen of what to do to make it. That's an education you can't get by sitting in a class looking at someone write on a chalkboard. That's education through the Spirit. And see, they are afraid for you to operate like that. Because if you operate like that, you don't need them. You understand that there's another mechanism working outside of this system, which is a spirit in which some of you ignorantly call God. That it can help you if you're not dependent on this system. If you depend on this system for education, you'll become a slave. And how many people out there that owe their colleges and owe their schools tens of thousands of dollars and don't even have a job? Don't have anything. On public assistance and social programming and social and welfare and all these things. And you sit there with a piece of paper that's worth nothing. And soon, with everything about to break out in this earth, it would only be good for one thing. Because there's not going to be any toilet paper.